I am absolutely delighted to host this program to release this remarkable work on ancient Indian food tradition and food, Bharatiya Vyanjan, Bharatiya Parampara. I am certain that when you will read the book, it is not only a very interesting read, but oftentimes, while reading about different recipes, rather different delicacies of the past, your mouth will start watering. And it's a beautiful and very attractive presentation of our ancient tradition, how, and it is about the ancient tradition, but I would say it is more about the diversity of India. We often talk about different languages spoken in the country, different way of different faith traditions, diverse ways of giving expression to your faith, your belief. People in different regions or in the same region, their color, skin colors, they vary. But many a time we omit to mention that the food practices are also very diverse. And naturally, they depend on the weather conditions, on the climate, on the geography, and so many associated factors. But one thing is common. Despite all this diversity, as we say, we are full of diversity, but there is underlying unity. So foods, different materials are used, different ways of preparing the food, but one thing is common, that they are all very delicious. So it's a really pleasure to receive you here and be part of this program. And this book has come from Atulji, secretary of the Deendayal Shodh Sansthan, Deendayal Research Institute, about which he has already given the details, how after the sad demise of Pandit Deendayal Upadhyay, two of his very close colleagues and personal friends, Nanaji Deshmukh and Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji, they together thought of setting up this institution because Deendayal Upadhyay ji's name had become identified with integral humanism, Ekatm Manavvad. So, in order to ensure that we must continue to spread that message and the spirit behind it, they had established this institution. When we speak of integral humanism, Ekatm Manavvad, then actually the whole Indian, I would say before I go into little detail, that the voice and words were of Pandit Deendayal Upadhyay. But when he propounded that theory, it was the soul of India which was speaking through it. The whole Indian tradition is about oneness of being, ekatmata. Unlike, and here I do not mean to criticize any other culture or civilization. Every people have a right to grow according to their own genius. What I am trying to say is that the Indian genius, right from the inception of Indian civilization, the very first book which we had in India, it declared, Ekam Sad Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. We recognized that reality, that supreme spirit, that ultimate truth is only one. But those who try to realize and grasp that reality, they give different expressions to it. So that has been the Indian genius. Other civilizations were defined by variable and alienable characteristics associated with the fact of birth. What is the color of your skin? What language you speak? Which faith tradition you belong to? And that is not the only thing. How you give expression, how you express or give expression to your devotion, even they became the defining parameters. On the other hand, the ancient Indian thought leaders, they rejected all these characteristics, parameters, and what they adopted was the basic belief in the divinity of mankind, Atma. Atma is na jayate miryate va kadachi naam bhutva bhavita va na bhuya ajo nitya shashvatoyam parayo purano na hanyate hanyamani sharire. My body is subject to death. My body is subject to change. But the Supreme Spirit which resides, dwells in me in the form of Atma, that neither takes birth, nor it dies, nor is subject to any destruction. And the Indian thought leaders, this was the parameter which they chose to define Indian civilization. If the basis color of your skin, everybody does not have the same color skin. If the basis is language, everybody does not speak the same language. Everybody does not give expression to her devotion in the same manner. Therefore, all these parameters are exclusive. They leave a large number of people outside the fold. And when you accept Atma as the defining feature of your civilization and culture, then you have no option. You include everybody, not just human beings, even animals, even birds, even small insects. When one really accepts and internalizes this message, that we are all connected through Atma, then nobody remains alien or other to us. We become a one whole. Jnanarthinam purata anantamarga santi yavanta pantha khaga ananta akasha uddiyate matsyacha agaha samudreshu taranti. The one who has realized this truth, he knows that there are innumerable ways to reach the divine. Innumerable, ananta marga. As many ways as there are in the sky when the birds fly, or as many ways as the fish when they swim in the bottomless sea. As many ways for us, and therefore this cannot become a reason for conflict. What better way to ensure that we live in a peaceful world than to recognize the fact that the same Brahma in the form of Atma dwells in you, the very same Brahma dwells in me. Therefore, we are all interconnected spiritually. Once I accept that, I cannot pick up any fight with anybody based on these flimsy things. So, what Pandit Deendayal ji's, or I would say right from Adi Shankara, so many other saints are there, up to Swami Vivekananda. And then in recent times we had Pandit Deendayal Upadhyay. They only reinterpreted and rephrased what has come to us as our legacy from our ancient scriptures and ancient seers. And I think that although, I'm sorry Atulji, although Deendayal Research Institute is there, but we are not doing enough. We are not really doing enough. Because this is such a powerful idea, such a powerful concept. You know, the world over, people became tired of the divisions, of the tensions, of the fights, and the first aspirations to unite the people world over started in mid of 20th century, when in 1948 the United Nations adopted Charter of Human Rights. Why there was need to adopt Charter of Human Rights? Where they talked of equality, they talked of human dignity, they talked of no discrimination. As human beings, we are entitled to dignity. This realization started coming after the First and the Second World War. So at the most beginning of the 20th century. And Indian thought leaders, 5,000 years back, they had talked about the not dignity of mankind, they had talked about divinity of mankind, which is far more important. All human rights are rooted in the concept of dignity of mankind. But if you accept divinity of mankind, then as human being, not as Hindu, as Muslim, as Christian, as anybody, no, simply because you are a human being. Therefore, you are divine in our nature, in our eyes. Your divine nature, it all depends on you, on each individual. This cannot happen collectively. But you have the potential to bring out the divinity which is buried inside you under the layers of aham. To remove that aham layer by layer requires sort of tapasya. And the day that happens, then a saint like Kapil Muni cries out. There is nobody around. His mother is sitting at a distance, calls her. Atmam sarveshu bhuteshu bhutatmanam kirtalayam archai dan manabhyam maitri abhinay chakshusha. See me, which means God, in every person, in the physical. Deho devalya prokto jivo deva sadashiva. The temple of God are these human bodies. They are the temple of God. If you consider them temple of God, can you violate their sanctity? Simply not. Person may be anybody. But once we recognize that this physical body is the temple of God, and as Kapil Muni said, see everybody as my temple and give them due respect. When we respect some individual whom we even do not know, that person has a right to be respected. But when we do it with the consciousness that that person is divine in nature, then it becomes an act of worship. And try to help them, whatever you can do. You can't do everything. Even if you speak good words to somebody who is in pain, that is enough. With an attitude of Maitri Abhinay Chakshusha, where you have that feeling of friendship, feeling of affinity, feeling of belonging. That person is not different, separate from you. So this is what in fact, and I've quoted some of these verses, but if you read Srimad Bhagavad Gita, that is nothing but a treatise on oneness of being. Yoma pashyati sarvatra sarvam chamai pashyati tasyaham na pirnashyami sacha me na pirnashyati. One who has trained herself or himself to see everybody in me and me in everybody. One who has reached that stage, that person is never separated from me and I am never separated from him. The whole of Gita, this is just one shlok. You can keep quoting one after the other. Samam sarveshu bhuteshu tischintam parveshwaram. Vinashyat sua vinashyantam ya pashyati sa pashyati. One who is able to see that Supreme Spirit in every being. And all our physical bodies will ultimately die. Earlier they have died. They are subject to destruction. But one who develops the ability to see the indestructible Akshara in the one which is subject to destruction. All of us have eyes, but Lord Krishna says that the real vision is one of him who can see the indestructible in the destructible. And this is what he called it Ekatmanavad. But and I must pay my tributes to Shri Nanaji Deshmukh. Atalji and he together, they started this institution, but Nanaji devoted all his life. And now the burden is on your shoulders. So, sir, please use us as your volunteers. This whole thing, this concept, this idea, honestly, I'm telling you, I'm not saying it to make my speech more effective. It fascinates me. Absolutely fascinating. And not just me, the whole world is today hungry for something which can unite, bring everybody together. We have this potential. But we will have to, in order to possibly, if we had earlier not ignored this great legacy of ours, possibly there would have been no need for 1948 declaration. Because India has given the message of divinity of mankind, which is much higher and much nobler than even dignity of mankind is a great concept, but divinity of mankind is still greater. So possibly there would have been no need, but because we had really, and I'm not saying so, Swami Vivekananda has used very strong words to say the same thing, that unfortunately we were not. We have every right to be proud of our legacy, but at the same time, some sense of shame that we have not lived up to those ideals. About this food, in India, as you have, Professor Saab, you have rightly brought it out. Even the religion is mostly about sharing food with others. That is what prasadam means. So, thank you very much for enlightening us about all these various forms of prasad in Kerala. And every festival is, I see here, the temple you talked about where women only participate. So outside Raj Bhavan, on the road, on both sides, women are cooking food. So every year I go outside when I'm here. When I'm not here, then it's a different, but they are cooking food. And the whole of Tiruvendra, on the roadside, and this food is shared with others. And while I was sitting here, I jotted it down. It came to, I recall, there is biography of Hazrat Khwaja Nizamuddin Auliya, Sufi saint. No, we were talking about in 6th edition. It has been said, langar is an essential prescription of the 6th edition, where the community feeding. When you go to Gurdwara, first they don't ask you to go and bow your head before the book. No, the first thing they say, Vand chakho, come and have food. And the Sufis had the same langar. So I was reading in his biography many years back. Earlier, that's why when I was sitting here, it occurred to me and I jotted it down. The langar in all Sufi shrines is essentially vegetarian. Everywhere, whether it is Ajmer or it is Delhi or anywhere else, it is vegetarian. So some people who had come from over visiting, and they were non-Indians, foreigners, they were there. And they said that what kind of Muslim saint he is, he serves only vegetarian food. And then he also said that they serve everybody in different plate. This is not the right. Then Khwaja Iqbal, who was his lifelong attendant, he stood up and he declared, and the name of the book is Nizami Bansri. Bansri. Nizami Bansri, it has been written by one of his devotees, Maharaja Hari Kumar. He was from Karnataka, his devotee. He has written his biography. And in that, Khwaja Iqbal stands up and says, if you want to eat in one plate, you can mix your food. But as far as the vegetarian food is concerned, our Sheikh, the orders are clear that in our langar, only vegetarian food shall be served so that everybody and anybody can have this food. So this parampara which has come from the mandirs is not confined to mandirs alone. It has affected everybody in India. I am so happy and so thankful to all of you who have come here, and they are attending this one. In fact, yes, I have this thing. This Philip Hitti has written, famous historian of the Arab history. He says that Abul Ala Marari, who is described as philosopher of poets and poet of philosophers, is considered a very erudite person in Arab history. After reading Indian books, he turned vegetarian. This Philip Hitti has written this. And there are so many things, Indian products have not only made the Indian food delicious, but it has also enhanced the delight of the foreigners. We are exporting from Kerala, we are exporting black pepper since last more than 4,000 years. And it has been recorded almost everywhere. So I'm so happy that you all have come here to attend this program, and I'm sure that when you will, I have requested Atulji that not only this very heavy book, coffee table book, but some lighter version should also be there, and he has told me that NBT is going to publish it. I'm sure that you will really enjoy it, and you will be inspired to try some new dishes which are popular in other regions of the country. I give you, all of you, my very best wishes, and I hope that this book will become very popular and it will enlighten people in different parts of the country about the food traditions in their own region and in other regions of the country. Thank you very much. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Valde nanni. Jai Hind.
It's a privilege for all of us to attend this function. Perhaps even though we have been staying in Kerala since long. We were born and brought up. Perhaps we have not gone into this aspect of the temple prasadams. And perhaps had it not been for this effort that has been undertaken by the Deendayal Research Institute, we would also not have gone in depth to the nutritional value of the prasadams and of the temples. In fact, when a few months ago, when Atul Jainji mentioned to me about the release of the coffee table book, and that Honorable Governor has agreed to host this function, I was also not very clear what should be the outcome of this whole effort. I was analyzing this during the last few weeks and months. I felt that ultimately these examples of the temples or the practices, cultural traditions, it shows a depiction. It is a depiction of the life of those times and how these were maintained, how these existed. Perhaps India in the recent times, in the modern times, which has been portrayed by the historians, especially historians who came from outside. When I say historian, Professor Shashibhushan also is a historian. But there were historians who didn't know the ethos, the heritage of India, who came from abroad and with some motives or intentions they tried to portray something. Some people didn't understand the real meaning of what existed in our country, and they felt from what they saw that India is like this. So they used to say that India is a country of people who are poor, poverty-stricken, a country of snake charmers, a country where poor were begging for alms and for food. But if you look back into the history and the heritage of our country, one can definitely say that these things which were explained here, it depicts a very glorious past. And the reason for that is that India didn't exist because of the governance that India had. India existed because of the tradition that we had and the people of India. And ultimately in India, till the British came, many of the things, many of the matters in our society depended upon the society. Ultimately, it was the residual powers rested with the society. What changed after the British came is the residual powers now rest with the government. Unless whatever is specified is authorized for somebody, whatever is left unsaid, the government has the authority. In fact, it was the other way around in India. The governance for the government, for the authorities, these are the things that the government is expected to do. This was specified. And what was unsaid, it was with the society. So, India's tradition in food, in education, we have the famous writings of Dharampalji, which mentions about the situation of education, especially in the then Madras province.